I had my Geiger counter, held that up, and it was going crazy the whole time. Hello and welcome to another episode of No Context with me, Kira Robson. On today's episode, I'm going to be taking you a walk through my journey to one of the most radioactive places on the planet, Chernobyl. So my journey there happened in 2016, and that was before the big dome was placed over it, called the sarcophagus, and also obviously before the war. When the war happened, Russia managed to take that area over. There was a big thing in the news. They disrupted quite a lot of the ground in that area, so kicking up quite a bit of radioactivity. I'm under the impression from what I've read that Ukraine now have taken back hold of it, but tours still aren't happening. They've not been able to go there for quite a while now. So it's quite interesting information and stuff that I want to share with you. So I've always been really interested in abandoned buildings. Loved them right from a young age. From being really young, actually, there was an abandoned sort of apartment block in the town where I still live. And me and a couple of friends, when that became derelict, got in there and had a good look around. I had an old video camera at the time, and I took that. I've still got some of the footage of that, actually. I'd be about 14, probably a bit younger. And we even got right into the basement of it, where there was a tunnel that actually led through under the road to a chapel that was across the road. That was a really interesting building. Anyway, I digress. That's where it all started. I've always been into derelict places and derelict buildings. I've been all over the country, and I saw some stuff on the TV about Chernobyl, learned a little bit about it, and it's always been somewhere that I wanted to go. I didn't realise it was actually called dark tourism to go to these sort of places. So yeah, I suppose I like a bit of dark tourism. Those are the places I'd like to go that are equally as strange and not your typical like bucket list, but they're my bucket list. So yeah. So anyway, it was my birthday coming up, and I was gonna get myself a little birthday treat from me to me. And yeah, that was to go and travel to the Ukraine to see Chernobyl. So I looked into it a little bit, found a awesome tour company. They were really, really good, called Chernobyl Tours. I booked in with them. As soon as I knew I got that all booked and sorted, then I started looking into, obviously, the flights, the hotel. I booked everything separately. I also got a hire car. We flew into Boryspil and International Airport. I hope I've said that right. If not, please correct me. So yeah, flew straight into there. Got the hire car straight from the airport and zoomed straight on over to our little hotel. I say zoomed, it was this just a little, I can't remember what it was, a tiny little car that I got. And traveling down what would be our version of like the dual carriageway. You'd just be traveling along, people are driving right up your backside and all over the place. It's a bit hectic, but that's a bit normal over there. People aren't really doing it aggressively. But yeah, so traveling along, and all of a sudden one part of one lane that you'd be in, you'd be like in the overtaking lane, up ahead if you weren't paying attention, you'd end up in a pothole that was the size of your lane. The roads weren't very well maintained over there, if I'm honest. But yeah, so you had to be quite wary of traveling. But it was from the airport to the hotel. It was a good journey. I don't know if it was about an hour, something like that. This was quite a while ago. But yeah, so traveling along these crazy roads, got to the hotel. It was incredible. Really nice vibe. Awesome place. We had some really good food, really good alcohol at the place. Everything was ridiculously cheap comparatively to here. I had a really good evening there. I'd literally booked it, so we got there, had the night, and then tour first thing in the morning. So we got up in the morning. I was mega excited, so I'd be up at like 5 o'clock anyway. But we had to go and meet the tour bus. It was near a KFC in the center of Kiev somewhere. I can't 100% remember where that was. But yeah, we all met outside this little tour bus, met our tour guide, really cool guy, Maxim. Yeah, he was a very knowledgeable guy on the area. And I think he was ex-military, that sort of thing. Just really cool guy. But anyway, so we all load on the bus. He gives us a bit of a lowdown of how everything's going to go. And he gives us a Geiger counter, which is a cool little device. I'll show you some of that on the video, because I'll pop some of them up if you're watching this. So yeah, on the tour bus, it takes probably about an hour, and then we have a stop. I think it was about 2 hours, the actual trip on the bus. So we were there super early. Took the tour bus all the way to the area that's like right outside of Chernobyl and Pripyat and whatnot. And is literally military checkpoints that you have to go through. And each checkpoint, the military they check your documents and check all that sort of thing. They check the bus, make sure nobody's smuggling anything. So yeah, we passed through each military checkpoint. There was a couple. I can't quite remember how many, but yeah, there was like no photography, so no footage of that. So yeah, after that last military checkpoint, we are then on a little bit of a journey, and then we end up on the main stretch into Chernobyl and Pripyat, which is called Lenin Avenue. And when we get to this sort of stretch of road, our tour guide, Maxim, stops the bus. He puts on a little video on the screen that's like on the front of this little bus. And it's of the exact stretch of road that we're traveling in on, how it was prior to the disaster. So as we're driving along, it's literally, the video is matching what we're seeing, but in a very like surreal way, because on the video it's beautiful, it's pristine, lovely, and what we're seeing is something entirely different. So yeah, we're traveling along this stretch. It gives you quite a lot of really like deep information about the disaster and what happened and all that sort of thing. On the last little stretch before we get out, you start seeing buildings that look like they're actually probably inhabited. There's people living there. So yeah, we get off the bus and we're shown an area where all of the robots and the machines that were used to actually clean up the reactor and some of the debris and the radioactive material that had spilled out, were shown the actual robots that did that. From what I was made aware of, they didn't last very long at all. They were like sent to work, people used them, and they would literally die while on the job, and people would actually go up and have to remove them. And so there's quite a lot of robots, but these robots, they're all lined up, and our Geiger counters at this point started going crazy because they still have all that radioactivity to them. And yeah, so our Geiger counters, they're going crazy at this point. So after we'd seen the robots and had a bit of a lesson on them, we pile back on the bus and we continue our journey. Out of the window, you can literally see the signs. If you know much about Chernobyl, you'll probably see them, but the triangular signs that are like the biohazard radioactive symbol on them. And yeah, so that's quite eerie. So our first proper stop after the robots is in a little sort of village area where that's all derelict, and it's just little derelict, what were formerly people's homes. And we had a really good look around these places, just small little buildings like what would be bungalows over here. and you could go in them. But the tour guide always told us to be super mindful not to walk off from him, because he knew where the higher radioactive areas were. Radioactivity and that sort of thing, it's unusual. I thought that there'd be literally a base level across the whole area that we were in, and that was it. I just thought the whole area would have the same sort of level, but it actually radioactive material, it builds up in things like soil and natural things, that sort of thing. So in certain areas there'd be like pockets built up, so areas that hadn't been accessed in a long time. I remember we went to one little area, and there was like a central courtyard that was all still dirt inside there. And our tour guide, Maxim, literally opened, he didn't open a window, he put his hand out of a broken window and said, I'm just going to show you how radioactivity builds up in pockets. Puts his hand out and his Geiger counter starts going crazy. He then pulls his hand back in and it settles down again. So yeah, there is like a base level throughout, but it does build up in pockets. So that's why they tell people not to go and try and break in and do it on their own, because you can get into bother if you don't know where them dangerous areas are, especially if you're in things like the Red Forest and that sort of thing. You can get into trouble with and get very sick very quickly. So after we'd been to all these little houses and little buildings, they actually took us straight to see the reactor. They were like, we're just going to take you to the main show so we can get that spectacular bit out of the way. So then you've got that fresh in your mind when you're traveling all around. So they took us straight into Chernobyl to see the reactor. And I'll show some of that video across what I'm on about right now. But yeah, so they took us we were stood straight in front of the reactor. You could see the sarcophagus off to the right. They were still building that actually. The workers were only allowed to work, I think it was something like an hour a day that were all working in that. And then they had to leave and fresh workers had come in purely because of the radioactivity. They weren't allowed to work there long. So yeah, you could literally see the reactor right in front of me. There's a statue that they'd also built that we were all congregated around. You couldn't go no further than the statue. But yeah, I had my Geiger counter, held that up, and it was going crazy the whole time. It was fantastic to actually see what we'd seen on TV and what I'd seen in documentaries, to actually see the reactor right in front of me. I say in all its glory, it's in all its infamy. But yeah, it was an eerie feeling to see it. That's for sure. So after we'd seen the reactor and we got that bit out of the way, we all piled back on the bus. There was a lot of traveling because you don't realize how vast the area actually is that it covered. And they had to obviously evacuate the whole city that had been built for these workers. That was crazy. So the next point that Maxim took us to, we traveled through. The roads are like, it's crazy that everything's just taken over. So what would be a main road, all of the grass had like crept in from the sides, and we're just traveling down this little strip down the middle. And he carries on taking us through all these little roads, and they're quite straight roads. And then you make a turn and that's a straight road. And he took us into Pripyat, where there's, I think the first place we went to was actually a shop. We went a little mooch around this shop. It would have been a supermarket. That was surreal because I've actually not been in a derelict supermarket in the UK before. So that was definitely a strange one. They'd still got the checkouts and all of that thing, them things lined up and stuff. All the windows are totally smashed out. Really, really eerie. That's a word I'm going to use a lot today. So yeah, after traveling, we actually walked from the supermarkets and all that area, and he takes us through this like little woodland just behind the supermarkets. I mean, the whole place is woodland, really. It would be awesome if it was like an actual used city in the middle of like woodlands. It's like the most dystopic, awesome like city you could imagine. So yeah, we go through this little woodlands behind these shops, and I wasn't expecting it. He didn't actually warn us. As we walk through these woodlands, you start seeing the fairground, obviously the iconic Ferris wheel and all of that, none of which got used. It was all fresh, brand new, ready to go when the disaster happened, which was such a shame. So yeah, we just such a cool moment coming out of the woodlands, and then the Ferris wheel and everything's just there, amazing. I remember when we were walking towards all the fairground area sort of thing, I tested my Geiger counter, because in some of the cracks in the pavement, I just wanted to see the difference between the concrete and the soil. So I did my little comparison, and it literally starts alarming when you put the Geiger counter near soil. Interesting fact, a lot of the soil, they've actually removed it from the city. They've got it in piles outside of the city, and they've replaced a lot of the soil with sand, just to try and lower that radioactivity in the city. That was like another interesting thing, because there was sand everywhere. Didn't know why, but our lovely tour guide Maxim explained it to us. I've actually got a little video here of him showing us the difference between soil and concrete. So yeah, we saw the Ferris wheel. I had to obviously get my iconic selfie of myself with the Ferris wheel. That was quite a moment. And you've obviously got the dodgems and all that sort of stuff. Like it was a proper fairground. There's stuff everywhere, little things for the kiddies. It was quite sad, really, that none of it got used. So after we went to the fairground, you carry on, this is all on foot, carry on a bit further, and you've got a football stadium. You would not know, you literally go through the turnstiles. He takes us into this football stadium, but the whole stadium is a forest. Like, you're stood in the stadium, you can see are they called stands, the stalls or the stands where people would sit, and it's a forest. It's the eerie, weirdest thing to see. After we've been in the football stadium, we go through another part of the city, and there's more. It's just like tower blocks everywhere, tower blocks of flats. He actually took us in some of the flats, and you just walk up and up and up for ages, and it's really weird because on some of the levels he took us into some of the rooms where people that have got in themselves have actually stayed. So they've actually spent the night and stayed in the city of Pripyat. Not somewhere I wanted to visit, not somewhere I don't think I'd stay. I've stayed in worse places probably, but yeah, I probably wouldn't want to stay for the radioactivity or the illness that could ensue. So yeah, we travelled up some of these blocks of flats, and in one of them he actually took us right to the top, and we went out of like an elevator shaft to stand on the roof of the building. He actually took us out onto the roof, and from the roof you could see the city and the forest. I didn't even need a drone. And you could see the reactor right in the distance. It was awesome, a really cool sight.